Super great.
Super great. Well, that's sick.
Not just 9.
The rest of us are just average.
We're just barely.
Good morning. Today is
Well, go ahead.
November 30th, 2022, and the time is now 9 a.m. I'm Kevin Day, Chair of the Custer County Board of Commissioners, and I will call this meeting to order. If you do have cell phones, please silence them at this time. And if you would join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Putting up on my computer. Echoing.
Okay, Kelly, could we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Day,
Here.
Commissioner Kanda,
Here.
Mr. Flower,
President.
and County Attorney Clint Smith,
President.
and Clerk to the Board, Kelly Camper, President.
Thank you. And audience introductions. This will start with you, ma'am.
Jennifer Cream, Commissioners Acton, Kayla Day, Wentworth, Lisa Bivens, Finance and HR.
All right, glad you remembered that. And excuse me, I'm connecting to Zoom at this time. Okay. If anybody goes to speak later, I would ask that you identify yourself for the record. Okay, any amendments to the agenda?
I have none, sir.
Okay, the only thing I would have is if we are not done within adequate time to make the dinner for Mike Halpin, I will, if it is all right with you gentlemen, call a recess to go and attend that and return. Hopefully we will be done by that time.
I'm betting on it.
All righty. Have no minutes today. Commissioner items. Commissioner Flower.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to request to put consideration of the distribution of the local assistance and tribal consistency fund dollars on the December 6th agenda, so we have a conversation about that. Unless the December 6th is super loaded up, I'm fine with moving it to the 15th, but I'd like to have that discussed. I'd really like to have it the 6th so we can have some direction of what we think we're going to do.
Okay. Do we have, I know we have all of our departments on the 6th. Do we have much else on that agenda?
I just have an MOU for public or for human services. There are 2 of them that she sent me this morning or yesterday.
So if that's all right, I'd request that be on the 6th.
Okay, if you want to put that on the 6th, that would work.
Thank you, sir. And then just my calendar. since our last commissioner meeting, we did meet with the attorney assigned to that lawsuit from CTSI on the 16th, 21st. We had a budget hearing, attended that. On the 22nd, I met with the direct carpet rep to look at getting carpet in the courthouse or in the courtroom, in the clerk's office, planking in the court clerk's lobby. And then we touched base again about the planking in the break room. So that's in the works. We probably ought to put that on an agenda as well and have a consideration of what we're going to do about that.
Consideration of what?
Consideration of funding new flooring in the court room. If we're called the courts, that takes care of their lobby and all of it, so.
December 6th.
Yeah, I think probably. I look, Mr.
Yeah, it
Chairman,
wouldn't
for
take
that.
too long.
No, it's not gonna take long. I've got all the documentation. I'll get that lined up. The 22nd, I was in the office, 29th in the office, and of course, today here with all you fine folks. So that's my calendar. I think that's all I had, sir.
Okay, Mr. Cannon.
Yeah, a couple things real quick. The our broadband program with the towns, we're gonna have a summary, end of the year summary. And that will be, you'll see an email to coordinate the date, but it'll be like the week after next, possibly. So we'll see how they get together. There's an issue going on because of the inflation that's created, that's happened. And so they're gonna have to go after a different grant now, 2 different grants in order to make up the cost. And they have to have a matching grant now because the costs got out of hand. But they're continuing on. They've been dragging fiber into the town still. And so it's on track, but they're gonna have to do a little more extra work on the grants. We'll learn more about that when we have the meeting. And speaking of grants, Caitlin, on the airport grant side of the things, and I mentioned this in our last meeting, there's new money around and they're looking, and they will fund up to $400K for a fuel farm. And so in the grant, I've got the rough draft of the grant submitted in there. So what I'd like to have is possibly a budget discussion on, it's a 50-50 match. So 400,000 to 200,000. And then maybe there's we got to look at what the value of that is, given it's a good opportunity now to put the 2 tanks together, or at least put the jet fuel where it needs to be for later. So we need to discuss that separately, I think. Or we can do it in the budget hearings. We still got that scheduled, but we're going to have to figure out, that's another way to use some of the ARPA money, perhaps, to match it. We need to discuss it. So what would you prefer? Do you think we ought to do it on an agenda item on the 6th, or shall we do it on
We had that, since you brought up the ARPA funds, that's a discussion we just put on for the 6th, and we have our budget
Right.
before that.
so it'd be worth
Loading up the 6th already.
But I have a
we can discuss it in the ARPA
quick
thing.
question. Are you wanting to have the consideration to go after the airport grant? Because isn't that something that needs to be requested? Because I have that.
Well, we have to do, we have to have the money to decide whether we're doing things, so we need to look at the ARPA stuff first. And then
So I don't need to put it on, or I do.
we can do it. I don't know. We don't, it doesn't need to be an agenda
Discussion.
item. It can be discussed at that
I
time.
think at that point, it's probably discussion.
Are we making a decision in that meeting?
No, I don't necessarily anticipate that. Just want to have.
It's an agenda item. It can be.
It could be. If we put it under consideration, we
Let's
can.
just
If
do
we
that.
don't want to take any action, we don't have to.
That's
Same
right.
with your deal.
Yeah.
Put them both
Let's
as
put it on
consideration.
there. And
Okay.
Could put it on there underneath the ARPA, because that might not have to do the ARPA or the fuel thing.
And it's actually, instead of ARPA, it's LATCF.
Yes,
They've changed the name.
Look,
Local,
Local assistance and travel consistency fund.
lactive, sounds like a nursing problem.
Try to avoid that.
Yeah. Maybe, what else comes to mind?
they're all in there.
Yeah, it's all there. All right, so that's that, I also need, would you send the 2 invoices that I need to submit, resend those? There's one for Armstrong and there's one for this for the airport. And the other contractor that did the flurry, the coding on it. You got both of them there. I just need to find it, redo it because I've lost
Whenever
track.
we get the checks after. payment.
No, I just need, you've already got them in there for me. I think you
Right.
sent them to me.
Yes, and
It's
I will
just-
get, once I get a
Okay.
copy of the check, I'll always send everything to you.
Oh, okay, you haven't got a copy yet?
No, these checks come out today.
All right, that's true. We need that to do that. So,
Yes.
all right, good. That's all I have.
all right.
Oh, and yeah, no, that's enough. That's all I got. for now. Go.
Okay. You brought up the broadband. I will just mention that UOCOG is also pursuing a grants coordinator position. They're in the process of trying to get a contract and procure the funding from the state for that. So that may be a resource to be able to use on that when that goes online. It is not online at this point, but they are pursuing that. And then I was going to bring up planning and zoning, their Jeep. Is now sitting at Road and Bridge. And tires are shot on it. They're needing a service job. They're also needing alignment on that vehicle. Before Chris will release it back to go into operation. We're looking at right at $1,000 for that. I did, I think you'll see in your packet. You got added in this morning. I asked for a report from Braden and there is $1,000 in her line item for maintenance and repairs at this time, which is roughly what we're looking at for that, with the tires, the service job and the alignment. So she was pretty worried that she didn't have the money to do that. But I think we do. She's still got a full month to go making inspections and everything. So I would like to, I think she's looking for direction from us before that money's spent, but I think I would like to move forward with getting those repairs done. And then that Jeep and the assessor's Jeep both did not get turned in for a recall on the fuel system breather. That is why it takes 20 minutes to fuel those up because of those breathers plugged. It's been a long time since the recall's been out, so those may or may not be able to be done under recall. But that can actually wait till after the first of the year for the new budget. So I was wanting us to go ahead and authorize for them to use that if we need to. It is in her line item, but I wanted to bring that to us this morning.
Whose line item did you say again?
Planning and zoning, yes. She was concerned she was gonna end up going over budget and she didn't want to do that. She's got a couple of other items, you know, the salaries and things where she's over. Overall, I think she's just under budget
So she had a,
for the year.
she did have an auto line in there, did she?
She has repairs and maintenance. I don't believe there's ever been anything in there for vehicle maintenance.
And you said you would ask Braden to put in a document about that, no, yeah, planning and zoning, yeah, it should be,
What do you think?
yeah.
Did you find it there?
Yeah,
What do you think that line was for? What was Jackie's work? All the maintenance had been done by the county up to then, right? Vehicle maintenance.
Well, we're actually 1,500 miles over on the service job. I think
So
that it's, generally it's only been taken in when it needed the service and oil change. And it runs about $75 to buy that oil and
Right.
filters and stuff. So, there's never really been anything budgeted for major repairs. And so now the tires are about $160 a piece. The alignment's $110. So you're looking $900 to $1,000 right at the present time.
man, it needs to be done. Can the road and bridge cop handle that and get reimbursed later?
Well, they'll bill her for the work.
They'll bill her for the
Bill her.
work, but it need to be done by year end, so everything can be
it's-
closed out.
They've got the money in the repairs and maintenance, it makes sense, that's where they,
I'd
And-
say,
Yeah, we got.
I would think if any department has a vehicle, they should have a vehicle maintenance line in it specifically for vehicles, because they don't have any other equipment, really.
And that came up in the email. Vince wants to have everybody have their own
Yeah.
vehicle maintenance thing, and I said we need to discuss that.
Yeah.
Because just what you said, it needs to be in every department's budget.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna do that, we should have done it already. Put it in every other department.
Well,
Maybe we
this-
still have time to do that.
this here isn't even anything that Vince
No, I
is
know.
wanting to address. This is just for parts for the,
No, I get it,
so,
but he would have to address it if.
yeah.
Yeah, because then the
So-
old system, that's what happened.
And I'm addressing this under the old system.
Yeah,
Right, I'm just saying, moving forward, if a department has a vehicle, they should have some,
Yeah,
if they think they're gonna need to have some work. Service work, whatever,
You need
no,
a
no. they should
projector or
have-
maintenance.
And repairs and maintenance is probably okay since it's already in there to do that, but they need to be aware of that. But they need to budget for it, so.
okay. So. Since it's already in the budget for that, I don't think we really need to take action, but I wanted to bring it to us and make sure everybody's aware of it.
Sure.
And things of that nature then. And that will. Pretty much all I have in addition to you guys, this morning. So I guess I will get a hold of Chris and Dorothy today and let them both know on that. So. If you have questions before that. You know what we're doing.
I do.
All righty, that's good.
Thank you.
And
Brings us to attorney items. Attorney Smith.
Introduction of the new guest.
Oh, we do have a new guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
So my name is Doug Pollock. I'm the owner of the lodge at San Isabel.
Ah, good, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And we'll be talking to you here in a minute.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
sorry, I started out.
Since our last meeting, I've been working with Dorothy quite a bit, planning and zoning. She had a very difficult person. There was some zoning issues that were discovered on the property, and when she tried to talk to him, he basically just told her that he wasn't gonna do anything, he was gonna sell the place and he could sell it before she could take any action to get the problems corrected. I reported a notice of lis pendens,
There,
which is a legal document that says that there is legal action, there could be legal action pending against a particular property, and that was done because that would kind of tie up the process of selling a property. I sent this property owner a letter and it actually got results. He responded. I had a lawsuit prepared and ready to file last week. In fact, I was down here getting ready to file it. When he called, this property owner called planning and zoning and wanted to have a meeting to try to work this out. So Dorothy and I met with him last week and he was apologetic for his initial attitude. And we talked to him. He was going to be out of town this week, but we need to go out and do, when I say we, doesn't have to be me. But I think one of the things we're gonna talk about tomorrow in our workshop with planning and zoning is maybe the necessity of having somebody who can accompany Dorothy on a regular basis to go out and do some of these inspections, because she's authorized by the resolution to go out on the property and look at things and to enter structures if she needs to. But that's separate anyway. We're gonna meet with him. He's got basically his septic system. He's tied other things into the septic system beyond what was permitted. It appears that the only solution is to install a second septic system. He's got a barn now, and he's got some other buildings with plumbing that are tied into the original septic system, and it wasn't designed for that much usage. But this notice of the list pendants, I didn't file the lawsuit, but there is that document of record, so the property couldn't be sold without that being cleared up. Yesterday, I got a call from Dr. Brown. This was based on a conversation he had with Dorothy about another possibly serious septic system issue that could be creating a real health hazard. So I went over and talked to Dorothy this morning about it and told her, let's start with talking to the property owner and see what the property owner has to say, and we'll go from there. I guess the only other thing, I've been working with Dorothy, giving her some input on suggested changes to the zoning resolution to be discussed at tomorrow's workshop with the planning commission. So that's where I'm at.
You gonna attend the workshop tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you, sir. Jennifer, do you have anything for us?
Just trucking along with trying to get things to help guide you all with what to get things approved in a timely manner on a regular basis, and getting a calendar set up of what things need to be brought to you when. Also sent out Tom's direction, I sent out an email to the departments that are not housed in this building to send over their calendar and office schedule, because there is a statute that says you all are supposed to be approving those. And then don't forget Christmas parties. I've been on the calendar up here, but just remember, and if you have an RSVP, to do so.
All right. Thank you. Any public comment at this time on anything that's not on our agenda? Not seeing any hands, right? All right. Any unfinished business?
None here.
None here either. Our new business, first item up will be the AP and out of cycle. So I think you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Right. Right from the get-go, there's a few things on the out of cycle checks that you might be wondering about. At least they would look weird to me. So this past month, these were all cut on the 1st of November. If you'll remember, Jennifer had a ton of problems with CIC and entering bills, and so I ended up having to put them in and getting them put out a little later than normal. But they're on there, and then there's the CIC payment, if you'll notice on the first page, for a grand total of $38,000, $38,475.
What page is that?
The first page on the out of cycle.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wrong one.
Braden had been working with the CEO of CIC to kind of resolve a payment we were basically paying for some things that we weren't able to utilize until over a year after we had gotten CIC. So after they had deliberated a little bit and we finally came up with a number. So that's when we just paid it right out when they came up with that number, and it was split the three ways, or actually it was split treasurer 18,000, assessor 11,800, and finance at 86. So that was one thing that I noticed as well. Was
So that 38,475 is a discounted.
yes, from, I want to say it was around 46,000. Yeah, the whole personnel module that we had, we would see it on there, but when you would click on it, there was nothing there. So we didn't think that we had access to that. Well, in the meantime, we were paying for it and it just never was set up. So, but now it's set up and we're almost ready to go live with it. Everybody will be getting an email in the next month or so, and then you'll be able to, pull up check stubs and W-2s and 1099s and all of those fun things that we produce out of our office. You'll be able to just look them up and get them yourself rather than, bugging us if you needed check stub or whatever. So it's pretty neat. And then one other thing too, I saw, where was it? It was where did it go? Was it for? Oh, there it is, Byron. So for Fund 20, there's a refund for November premium when he retired. CICD still pulled his insurance. And so you'll see that 280.43 in the center of that line. It's broken down on the far right. So $10.53 of that was dental, and then the $269.90 was for health, and then the grand total's in the middle. Sometimes it looks like it's been taken out twice, as we both know.
Yeah,
It was so obvious, no?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what that's for. And then those were just some of the things that kind of just jumped out at me a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed, and after I noticed we had a pretty long list here, I remembered the issues that we had. And
Yeah.
why everything had to come out.
Well, and it's funny because the out of cycle, the way we've been doing this report, we're doing it from the first of the month until the time that the checks were written. So really, if I printed checks, let's say on the 25th of the month, so I can get reports to you all in a timely manner, but we still, have 5 days left of the month. So after that initial report, that open report that I send you, all of those checks are kind of in between, that the 26th and the 29th pretty much are all going to just get thrown onto the first, because then that will show us a more accurate description of what we're really paying and when. Yeah.
So do you maintain a running balance on the ARPA fund?
Other than looking up the balance and the budgetary fund accounting, I can look at that, yes, anytime. It's not so much a.
That's a separate question. What you're just asking.
Yeah,
Process.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I can pull that up anytime and get a balance on there, yes. Mhm.
I move we accept the out of cycle checks.
second.
Yeah, a motion on the floor to accept the out of cycle check report.
Approved.
I know, and that went in
Approved.
after the
Thank you.
fact. It's
The
fixed
out of
now.
cycle
Thank you.
report. Any further discussion on that? Okay, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Did you bring AP?
I have AP. So
You
yeah.
got it there in your.
Yeah,
computer?
well, I've got it on my drive. That's the one good thing about Google Drive.
Yeah, that's.
I
The
can
only
get
good thing.
to.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's right. We actually
I did
printed
not
this. on
see
the back.
anything really that jumped off of that at me.
That's great.
Yeah, I just. First 18 pages of this document. Wear me out.
It's the
It's
insurance
different. Oh.
breakdowns. It's, I know
Just
it,
incredible.
I know it.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, I had a couple questions and I called Lisa the other day and asked her about it. Thank you, ma'am. And I think probably it's really. I'm probably more responsible for this issue than I should be for sure. It's tough, I think, to have Lisa or Braden come in and us expect them to answer deep dive questions on how money was spent and so on and so forth. So I request that if we have questions, that we submit those or get those to Lisa ahead of time. And most likely we'll get an answer before today. We cut down on
Yeah, we don't need to waste
some of
time.
the time in here. And I told Braden, I said, if I was in that chair and you asked me a random question, I had to dig it out. I mean, I'd be all over the map just trying to find it. There's how many pages in this document. So,
70.
yeah, so I
Not like you're counting or
certainly,
anything.
make every effort moving forward to get my questions submitted to Lisa before the meeting and get those ironed out. I just think that's fair to them and it would be a better efficient use of our time. So just wanted to mention that. I did have a couple questions and she answered those and good.
Well, you're right, when you get right down to it with the new system online and ironing it out, there's really no. I mean, you guys you've got it, it should be right.
Exactly. And you know,
Catastrophic issue that we need to hear.
well, and the thing about calling ahead of time, when I'm at my computer, I can pull up that invoice, whatever department,
Sure.
and look at the actual attached piece of paper and explain to you in depth as to what it is.
Right. If there is,
Which I can't do that
Right.
here, so.
and there's no need for us to be deep diving.
So if we see Lisa's extra pickup on there, then we ask her about it beforehand. Sorry, some people never forget.
Oh, you know what, you gotta try, I mean, you have to do what you have to do.
That's it.
I would move we accept the accounts payable document as
I'll
presented
second that.
in the amount of $305,214.06.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to approve the accounts payable in the sum of $305,214.06. Further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Kelly, do you need the amount on down cycle?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
Awesome. Pleasure doing business.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Highlight of our day.
Bye. Thanks. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye. Val. Have a good
Thanks.
day.
Okay, next item up would be the consideration of approving hotel and restaurant liquor license for the San Isabel Lodge. So you are up, sir, if you'd like to come up and join us.
Good morning again. Nice to
Good
have
morning.
you. I think we've met
Thank you,
once
Jess.
before.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, Mom Flower,
Nice to meet
See if you can remember Bud.
Dawn.
No, I know, I'm kidding. You gotta get me.
How's things over on the east side?
Good.
Good. Good.
There's more snow over there too.
Is there?
What'd you guys get?
About 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah.
So you ran around with the loader first before you came over?
Actually, I didn't, I considered it, but with as warm as it's gonna be and everything, I was like,
Good call.
just let it sit and it'll melt. And yesterday afternoon, it was getting packed down. It was fine. So,
You need the liquor license so you can get some hot buttered rums going.
right. And then run the loader so people will come up and drink.
Honest, the roaders, like, that's the only reason I'm all over it. So,
So Doug has applied for a liquor license.
It's actually a hotel and restaurant license for, beer, wine, and spirits. And, this is his first time. San Isabel used to have a liquor license. This is his first time applying. So this is a new license. I emailed it to you guys on Sunday, and then Jennifer, I'm sure has it in your packet.
Got it. Yes.
All of the stuff that's required, is a part of this packet that I've sent you. That'll all go to the state if you guys approve it today. It was advertised in the paper. I took a sign down for him to put up. It's gotta be up for 10 days, and so that was put up also. I believe he's got a list of people that have signed a petition that are with him having that done.
It's just an impromptu kind of thing that Kelly suggested. So as patrons have been coming in and out, we've asked them if they would be willing to sign, showing their support for the liquor license.
I see, I guess your mill comes out of Rye is why that's listed as Rye rather than San Isabel on your paper. So.
He's sort of in a weird hole down there. We can't put San Isabel, we can't put West Cliff.
That ad,
Rye is Pueblo County, and that's what
Yeah.
makes it
It
funky.
confuses people.
What he actually, for my retail sales tax and all of that, the state can't get it right either because they're confused. I've been Pueblo County, I've been Herfinau, I've been all kinds of other stuff too. So it's an ongoing challenge. The best way so far is to put Wetmore.
yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, I think your sales tax is. It's a different address that you got it out of, isn't it?
It used to be, we've brought it back because our office was in Lakewood, but now everything's moved to San Isabel.
So do they know how to get the tax stuff figured out now?
Well, my bookkeeper's working on it because they actually have to get my retail sales tax license switched to Custer County, which last year we had it as Custer County, but when they renewed it, it went back to Pueblo and then Herfinau, and I forget what other county, but we can't get it to Custer yet. So
What was the old address under the old license?
I don't know, because he handles
Been
it
so-
all through the
Been so
state.
long ago. You never saw it.
well, it's always been that address as far as the business
The
address,
right
but then
address.
my billing or mailing address within Lakewood, but now it's to the 59 County Road.
You got a lot of hot buttered rooms to make. Everybody's ready.
Everybody's ready. We get asked every time somebody's coming in for Bloody Marys or mimosas or beer and different stuff.
Sure.
Question, so maybe to you and Kelly. Your plan is to have retail sales. And this license allows for that. Correct. Ms. Kelly?
Yeah, retail is in, I mean, he can't sell.
It's a malted beverage, right?
Yeah, and he can't sell like a bottle of something to somebody or a 6-pack of beer.
So I
to
can't walk
somebody.
Not a
around
liquor
buying-
store.
No, it's to be served on. the
Retail sale on the premises.
Yes,
I thought it included the sale of beer from the store.
no, remember I said that they won't let the same person in the same facility have those two licenses.
I thought it was still malted though. For that,
You
because that's the
can-
way it was
You
before
can
too.
serve malted in there, right? And she doesn't know how that ever went through.
Okay.
Is that a deal breaker for you, Doug?
No, I was still under the impression that we would be able to sell malted beverages from the grocery store.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I mean, this is well. The hotel and restaurant type of license doesn't have any impact on that. It would be different
Yeah, that
Separate
would be a
license.
retail,
license,
a malted,
retail license. Okay.
yeah.
Be like a grocery store. Done.
Wine, beer and spirits, does this include all three?
It's good. I move we accept the license. And prove it.
I will second that.
And I have a motion on the floor to approve the liquor license application for the San Isabel Lodge. And it's San Isabel Lodging LLC. Further discussion.
I do, sir. Does this mean then that we're telling the state that we've approved it at the county level and they still need to?
Yes.
This is not a done deal. He's got to submit this to the state with our.
Yeah,
I guess my only statement would be, yeah, that you make sure and clarify that so that you don't step out of bounds and do something you're not supposed to there.
Right.
So. Any discussion from the room?
Nope, I'm good.
Anything from Zoom? No hands up.
No,
Okay, those in favor of approving the liquor license application for San Isabel Lodging LLC. Signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
you bet.
Thank you, Bob.
Tom, I'll be down for one.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item on the agenda would be the consideration of county manager position. We moved that to today from the other day. So that we all had a little bit of time to digest and everything, so I will open the floor for some discussion here.
So how, there wasn't a motion made before.
No. Well, the only motion was to postpone until today.
Okay, you want to have some discussion now, or do you want
Yeah, I was gonna discuss a little bit, basically, I was gonna reiterate, the fact that I'm the one that brought this. The more I'm here, the more I see a need for this. If we move forward with it, I know we would need to come up with a good accurate job description. We would need to figure out the timing on it. As to when the transition would take place. Because I don't think it's something that would happen just overnight. We'd also probably want to discuss where we post it if we approve this. And salary. And how that might look moving forward, because if we went ahead with this, I think it would change some of the structure of what we have now in some of our departments. And so this would affect right off the bat, it would affect the HR finance office when this transition took place, because a lot of the duties that are in all these other job descriptions for a county manager are things that are happening in that office now. So from there, I'll throw it out here for discussion here at the table.
to? Let me ask you a couple quick questions, because
Okay.
you brought up some questions in my mind. You got a salary in mind? Because I'll make a couple broad questions.
Okay, that's good.
Salaries one, authorities is another we don't know, and the other one is how it affects other things. How can we vote on it if we don't know the magnitude and how we're going to do it? We ought to probably have a description made out and looked at in detail, so we know what we're voting on. I'm not gonna be Nancy Pelosi and pass it and then figure out what's in it
Figure out
later.
what's in that.
Period. I'm serious.
Uh,
And so that's just thinking about, like, and you brought up some good points, if that's what we're gonna do, because just the first issue there, and I don't need answers, Kevin, I just wanted to bring that up.
And just to address that, I think at this time, what I'm looking for is. I'm hoping that we approve to move forward. To bring on a county manager. And there are a lot of details that need ironed out. Because it will change our structure, and that is things that we do need to work on. That is why the transition time will take place so that we can iron out these details and get somebody on. I would be looking probably for the transition not to happen until probably about April. It would probably need to happen by then so that they would be able to be on board and ready for the audit, for budget for the upcoming year, so that they would be able to get some of that stuff in play.
That's assuming we have a budget to do it with. That's another detail that we have to discuss yet, how we afford it.
And that's part of that because
I mean, it's just, you're bringing up good points.
yeah. And some of that is probably a change in how the HR finance looks would probably pay for part of that.
Well, I mean, we don't know yet.
We don't know that. That's a possibility. But the need is there. I see a need for it. And so.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think these are valid points from the high elevation. I hope we can spend some meaningful time having these discussions without rushing to make a decision all of a sudden and then in 2 months go, we never thought about that.
Yeah.
Really would like to get it fleshed out and not be in a big hurry. I need to say that up front. I don't have a particular timeline in mind about trying to implement this position if we do that, but I spent some time trying to objectively look at the pros and cons of this. I made a list of those. I'd like to share that with you if I can, and then later, if you want a copy, I would be glad to provide that to you. But I'll start with the cons, things that I think we need to take a hard look at, and you mentioned one of them, and that is after that in an FTE. There may be creative ways to address that. I don't know. Those are conversations that we need to have, in my opinion. This will sound crazy, but I think another a con here is where in the world we're going to put this person. If we have to create a new office, that's going to be a challenge. We know that because we just don't have a lot of office space. Commissioner Ken and I had a conversation last time about this, and I think that you brought it up. It has all those appearances that of adding another layer of government or another layer of authority. And that's a concern. If I don't want to presume we're going to do this, but I have a tendency to say that if we hire somebody and it's not the right person, then that's going to come to the forefront real quick. So, but I do think that's a legitimate concern. I think there's also a concern about the optics of the commissioners wanting to do this because we don't want to do our jobs, and I think that needs to be discussed and addressed. And then I also think there's a concern about the BOCC handing off and giving up a lot of control and authority and decision-making on a daily basis. And then I think another con is that we're probably going to have to consider restructuring some departments, one or two or whatever, and Kevin, you kind of mentioned that, and so I can see that being an area of concern. Some people may not be comfortable with change, no question about that.
Then there's a possibility of, losing somebody because of it as well. And
Yeah,
that's,
I mean,
that's a very real possibility.
Yeah. On the pro side, I think, that the advantage of having a county manager, I mentioned this last week, I'll reiterate it today, is to be able to conduct the day-to-day operations of our county business. And connected to that, then it also removes those day-to-day responsibilities from the commissioner. I think another thing that is an advantage of having a county manager, it would add an accountability layer to all the county departments and employees that I don't believe is there today. I think it would allow certainly for a more efficient chain of, I don't want to say chain of command, I would say here probably a chain of communication. Streamline that whole communication thing. That all the departments in the county are hearing a unified and streamlined voice about whatever. And I believe it would allow for an effective chain of authority as well. There shouldn't be any question if we had a county manager. If we give them some amount of authority, there shouldn't be any question about, well, who's going to make that decision? I also believe that it would create more direct decision making in the whole county government process. And then I'm still trying to work through this whole budget scenario portion of the county manager's position, but I do believe that probably the budget operation should be tied to the county manager. And then that can be an ongoing and year-long process as a county manager would meet with departments. But that whole budget process is ongoing conversation and not something that happens in September or October. And I know Commissioner Candy has pushed for that ever since he's been in office to say we've got to touch base with these departments, at least quarterly or whatever. And I think that would help that happen. And then I personally think that our county accounting administrator could serve as a grant administrator as well. I think that would clear up a lot of issues that we have been prone to struggle with on the grant side of the county government. And I truly believe that the county commissioner would have a huge piece in serving as some continuity between the transition of commissioners from either one administration to the next or one county commissioner to the next. I think that position, that county administrator, would be a great resource for a new county commissioner to go to and say, hey, paint me the big picture of what's going on in county government. And hopefully that would allow incoming commissioners to do maybe a better job of decision making and governing from a higher level. And then I also think a county manager should be responsible for a lot of training for employees and departments. Something new comes online, CIC or whatever, although CIC is more finance directed, but some kind of to serve as a clearinghouse to educate the employees, department heads, even the elected officials about new policies, procedures, how we're going to move forward. So those are some of my thoughts about the pros and cons. I would certainly add to either one of those columns, for my own edification at least, but I just wanted to throw those out.
Okay, my turn.
Yeah, your turn.
All right. I've done a lot of thought about this, a lot of research since we last talked. And I still remain adamantly opposed to it right now. And I'll give you some reasons why. But I think I have a solution that we could consider. Maybe this is what we would consider during the consideration of what it means to have a county manager. And it dawned on me while I was doing that, that we are each different. Each commissioner is different, different backgrounds, and that's good. And this job is the only job I know of that there is not a job description. The only requirement of this job is to be a citizen of this county in the United States. There's no, you must have a degree in X, you must be X, Y, and Z smart over here, or whatever. You know who the boss is something different too. It's the people. And it's the people that need to understand the backgrounds of everybody. And they're the ones that give us the grade that says, oh, you're going to make a great commissioner because you meet the criteria at their level, what they think a commissioner ought to be. Are you smart in the county? Are you smart in business? Are you smart in leadership, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what they make the cut in. And so they trust us with their, and once we're elected, then they've made a decision. We've been hired against an unwritten roles and responsibilities. And by state statute, it's that set up that way. Our structure is exactly what it is by statute. We can't change road and bridge. We can't change departments and all that. Those are laid out. We have to operate within those and set up our management, which it is management, and governance is the same way. I looked up governance and go look up management in the dictionary. They're almost identical. One's toward policy procedures, we're setting up roles and all that kind of stuff. And management is doing the same thing in an execute. So you have to create a position, you've got to create a policy that has the policy and the processes and procedures of executing whatever that policy is. How many policies are there, in a county? You can name probably on a handful. Maybe in the bigger counties, you got other policies to handle the people on the street in tents, we don't have right now. There's a lot of things that can come up. So given that, they paid us $310,000 to sit here in our job in this county. That's roughly what it is. I asked Braden, we each get a different salary rate because I'm the new boy on the block. I got 4 years at a higher grade right now. It says a few thousand more. So that's a lot of money to be telling us to execute the services that they want from us to manage that. And it's our job and it's our role. It's our authority and responsibilities they gave us. We got the authority from them, the people. And we cannot give that to anybody. We can go ahead and say, okay, you got the authority to run the road, the training program for the county. But the responsibility still remains ours. If we fail at it and they don't get the service, or if they fail at it at some other thing, make a wrong decision that we're going to give them the decision making authority, then we're accountable. And then guess who gets fired? Not that county manager. And unless we get to him first before we leave office, because we're getting fired or not elected on the next term. So it matters. We have to be careful what we line out to do if we're going to have it. So that's a first look at what it is. So I went and looked at, you gave me some thoughts. I looked up Hinsdale and I called them county, 893 people. They had a county manager and they called a county manager. I called that person up. Her name is Sandy Hines. Talked to her for a couple of hours. And so the more I talked, the more it was set up. They set up a custom process. And she says, I'm not even though it says that, I have no authority. And she says, I'm a secretary. I look at myself as the secretary. I said, well, why? She says, they don't have a BOCC admin. I said, well, no wonder. In the past, they were setting up their own agendas, doing their own thing. And so they needed somebody to manage their schedule. So I started down that path. And she said, and in addition, things come up. And so I've become a coordinator of things. You mentioned coordination today already. We do need coordination. guess what's happening right now? And I'm glad through time, we've gone through how many admins here? 4, 5? And everybody's had not had enough time to get into the swing of being the secretary, actually doing the things that an executive admin should be doing, or a coordinator. So she said, well, I said, well, how much are you paid? She said, well, $50,000. It's wow. She said, yeah, but it's not to be the secretary. It's to be part the HR program assistant as well, and the finance as well. So she had 3 jobs that she was playing. Not the county manager. She was HR and finance and a secretary with the other finance director. That's how the 800 people had the money to pay them, and they didn't have any other departments to go on to. So I thought, okay, so coordinator. So an administrative coordinator title came up in several discussions. Pueblo County went on again, off again. They had a nobody, then they had a county coordinator coordinating things that come up. They had a county manager, and then that went back to a county coordinator. And now it's back to nothing, I believe. I think I'll have to look at it. But it went back and forth because it didn't work out necessarily, and it was a matter of budgets. And of course, the bigger the county got and the more things they had to do, they changed the job titles and some things. And by statute, there is no such thing as a county manager. It doesn't exist. It's us, our job to execute however we want to manage things. So I thought about that for a while, and then so we each have different, and we set up a management structure for our own execution here, and we've all got that chart. But when I was out campaigning, got next to the people, and a lot of people had talked to me about who I was and what I was. They didn't know who I was. And I'm going to I'm going to introduce you to me. And this is kind of sounds a long way around it, but this is my CV from a long time ago. And it talks about what I did, where I came from, and what my expertise is. Something that people got when they were talking to me, but nobody, I never talked about it. We just started executing the job here as commissioner. Only reason I bring it up, and I highlighted a few things in it, is I've had a lot of experience dealing with things just like we do here. And I know you all have in your own businesses and your own way that you came about being elected by the people. We all have a reason to be here with different experiences. And training came up a lot. Leadership training, I highlighted all that. I've had a ton of that professionally with the Air Force, with the Lockheed Martin, with Raytheon Company, with my own private businesses, etc. I understand the issues. I understand what it needs, and I understand what we need here as a county. And I've been thinking about that. And Tom brought it up. We need to get budget reviews. Well, we got a budget guy, but we switched everybody out over the last couple of years. It's been hard to get that review going and getting the process up. But that doesn't mean we can't do it. We've got 95 employees here roughly. How many do we have, Braden, really active? Right. About 95, right? And if we can't manage that and have them excel in their jobs, we need them to excel too, along with the elected officials that are elected by the county as well. So why don't we have a program set up where we can train people to be leaders? It's important. Every company does that today in the United States. Every government organization, including the state of Colorado, does that, so that you are equipped to do the things that we've been having a problem getting done, instead of just focusing tunnel vision. Get the people to do it. We need to have our elected officials go through training programs also to be leaders, the leadership development, it changes, sensitivity training for things, other leadership development needs to be done. We ought to spend the money to do that. And guess what? I found this county's full of talent. People like this, everybody has a resume. Your resumes are the same. Impressive stuff. I've got Reggie Foster's husband. I talked to him. It's Michael. He's got a leadership development company that he did after the service, and he's down in Belize, believe it or not, with a company deal, teaching a leadership seminar down there. He's here at our disposal, and I asked him if he would be part of a program that we could develop later on. This is whether we have a county manager or not. This is something I think is necessary. But it's important for our leadership to excel, because we're coming out of this. We're on the cusp of being a real small county where good old boys could shake hands, just like this county manager in Hinsdale. We got one town and 893 people in that county. And they got the luxury of being able to talk to each other because there's not a lot of bureaucracy between each other. We are at that cusp now where we need to get our people on that world-class step of becoming a leader as well. So that's something to think about. So that gets me to the point of where I think I have the solution for this. We've got the ability, we've got talented people. Braden has come along a long ways with his budget and the HR world. He's got contacts in both the budget side of things and as well as at the state level I'm talking about now. So if I were to ask Braden, let's go build a policy, a personnel policy. I think we could probably get a personnel policy developed by Braden using the rules, regs, and all that, his contacts at the state level and the local departments here to come together and build a policy that we could approve or discuss. It's not our job to sit in those meetings and do that. We're getting paid $310,000 to make the decisions and take the responsibilities that are given to us. So as options. So I think in each department, we have the same skill. Kelly is is excelling at being the county clerk. She's learned a lot in the time she's been here, just like we all have. And to be part of the big picture, we can contribute that. And that's what would have to happen if you had a county manager here. What's he gonna do? He's not an expert. He's got a separate resume. We may have some, we're gonna spec it out more tightly. You're gonna have to have leadership, blah, 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 financial ability, whatever it is. Well, I don't know. We'd have to work on that. So I think in the meantime, I think the answer is sitting behind the computer right over there. She is already coordinating things because the calls have been coming to her. What are the fees at the dump? Or what I got a leak in the office over here. We gotta do a furnace thing here later today or whatever the problem is. I think she could do the county administrative job, and she's doing it now. County coordinator, I should say, administrative coordinator. And if she would be, and she's got the grant stuff already. And if we wanted, and she's the PIO, and she's a great communications person, and she would be able to do the right thing. Now, whether it's her, and she's one of our employees already. Well, all we need to do is set up some discussion right now on how we would do that. And I don't know if she could take it on. It would have to be additional money, but it wouldn't be $60,000 more above it. $500 a month maybe, or whatever is reasonable.
Yeah.
And that we can afford right now with the budgets that we've got. We've got some one-time shot money, but we've kind of, whatever we do, we have to sustain and keep people employed. The sheriff's department needs people, and we need to pay them as much as it takes to stay. The health department does. We need to pay them as much as to stay. And the road and bridge guys, we can't afford to keep turning people. So let's use our money wisely. Let's sit down and not just say, well, we need it. You pointed out, Kevin, there are lots of things we need. And our job, we don't have to have the expertise in everything. I've got expertise in a lot of things. I have some biomedical expertise, which enabled us to help me through that pandemic debacle. But how many people that's why you have a diverse team. We're a team. And take advantage of each other's strengths, and then figure out how we can do a better job managing or governing the thing, first of all. But it's our job, as stated in the statutes, to manage the people of the county for the employees, for the good of the citizens. So that's where I stand right now. And I think that's not the exact answer to our problem. We could discuss that in another meeting sometime on what's the next step. And I think we've got a big part of the solution right now. So that's where I am. I don't want to vote on it today. Or if I do, I'm gonna say no.
The authority issue. And you brought it up and both of you actually did. Ultimately, we are the end authority. And if we had
Not
a
if we can
manager,
do it.
they would not have any more authority than was granted to them by us. They would be acting upon our wishes.
But the county citizens hired us, not them. And that's the issue.
They hired
That's a
us,
risk that we have
that
to take.
we were voted into office, as you say, to run this county as efficiently as we can for the people of the county. I believe we have a difference of opinion on how that might best be done.
Maybe so. That's okay.
Because I believe that it would be way more efficient if we had someone with whatever amount of authority we gave them to be able to make a lot of these day-to-day decisions. Right now, something will come to us. It might be 3 months before we get an answer. Because of the way the system is set up, we have to make sure that we've got it on an agenda. So we've got to post it out a couple of weeks. We've got to do this. Then we postpone it, put it to another agenda. And it takes a very long time to make simple decisions a lot of times here. And if we had someone given that amount of authority to be able to do the day in and day out stuff to take care of that, this county would run more efficiently. And I don't believe that we are giving up any authority. We are pulling our hand back off of the steering wheel, so to speak. But we're still driving the car. So, but, that's what I have to say about that. So, Mr. Flower.
Yeah, if I may, I would like for us to invite Braden up to the table so we can have a discussion about what this would look like financially, if it's even feasible. That'd be all right.
That would be great.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
How are you?
How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Busy.
Nick to bring the phone, he brings the computer. Yeah.
Big fun.
They do the same thing.
Yeah, so I think the $70,000 question is it fiscally responsible to consider adding another position? And then obviously, can we afford that? Where would the money come from? I don't know how much thought you've given this, haven't really had much conversation with you about this. I know we talked about maybe making some changes within departments. Maybe we can do this without costing any additional salary. I don't know that. That's why I'm asking.
Hey, Tom, can I ask you a question? So I don't want to put him on the spot. Asking him if it's fiscally responsible is not the right question. Is the money there to do it? Really?
Is it possible? That's why I said,
Yeah,
can we
it's,
afford it?
he can't give us whether it's we're being responsible fiscally doing it.
Yeah.
Not his job.
So, yeah, I guess a couple things, because I've been really working on this personnel budget for this year and just what a raise would look like or anything like that. Within that, I've been able to get some more clarity on everything. I misspoke a little bit, Bill, off the top of my head.
Whatever it is, it's a
The
lot.
total for the commissioners are 258,846. That's what the cost will be next year for the
All
three
the,
commissioners.
because some of us haven't got the medical
Insurance and stuff
insurance.
like that.
But if it were 3 rookie commissioners with full benefits, it would be roughly
Yeah, right, it would definitely be
300.
closer to that 300 number. So anyway, just because I think it's good to have all those numbers on the table. I also just threw in, and we can play with this. So
if, say, we hired a completely new full-time person, 90,000. I don't know if that's the number that we should go with or not, but that's the number I threw in here. That total
That's total.
cost. I'm sorry.
Is that 90,000
No,
salary? or is
that would be
total?
salary.
Okay,
So if they were hired at a $90,000 salary and they took all benefits, then that would cost the county $117,300.
did you do that with any other salary amounts besides 90? or-
And I can throw in, I mean, if we wanted to put in a number right here, 80, for example, that total cost becomes 106, 135,
And 70?
and 70 would be 94, 969, 970,
And 60?
83, 804.
You said the other one was 97.
I'm sorry, which one?
You said 97, 569. The 70,000.
94.
Oh, 94. Yeah, I slurred my four.
94, 970.
Okay.
So if we talk about a salary, salary versus total cost, is that 15% more to get to the total cost?
It's not exact because it's 11.65% for benefits. And then it is a flat amount for insurance cost, which is at most 25,000.
But that's variable.
Correct.
Benefits is not.
Right. Other than selecting or not selecting which benefit they choose, that's worse. That is the highest amount of benefit would be, the benefits could be based on our current packages.
So you certainly have a better handle on the county finances than I do. Can we afford it? Do we have the money? Or could we have the money in the 2023 budget year?
Or in 2025.
Well, I think that's a tough question because you weigh that. You weigh that on what the value of that position is. I guess perceived value of that position. And so, are there issues right now that are costing money that could be gained in that position? It's hard to be able to just say yes or no to
Can I
that.
quantify?
Yeah.
Very easily.
As far as I do think that the way to look at this is not adding a new full-time employee, because then if you're talking about that, if there's somebody that's already here, or if there's a position that's removed and this one's added, you're talking about this being maybe a $30,000 conversation as opposed to $115,000 conversation. So I definitely think that's probably the more prudent way to look at this in this situation where we are at as a county right now. I do think it would be difficult to just add $120,000, $115,000 to the budget year after year. But at the same time, I've heard, I think you mentioned it, Tom, that some of those managers are tasked with bringing in X number of grant dollars. And so if we do have something like that happening, it might save the county $300,000 a year by adding $100,000 to the salary.
Mhm.
Will that be specifically salary? Maybe not,
Probably not,
but it would definitely help the bottom line. So I think there's big variables in this situation.
Well,
in the whole-
that's a good point. This person grant wise is not the expert on every grant. Other people are still going to be writing grants. This would be a grant coordinator more or less. It
Right.
sounds like truther. So it's a little bit unfair to think that they're gonna pay for their position by writing the grants for us.
I could see a benefit to somebody that has an overall picture of the county to be able to write grants for an overall picture of the county, because that's not something I've necessarily seen right now. I mean, there's things that are coordinated for like ARPA or LATCF and things like that I've seen you guys do, but I haven't seen a whole lot more than that. And I might be off base there,
Maybe
but
there's no other choice.
so I could see a benefit to somebody who's doing that, and that's a requirement of the job.
If I could interject to Braden's comment, when I spoke to the county commissioners in Roanoke County, I said, how in the world can you guys justify paying the county manager kind of money, paying, I think it was $85, almost $90,000. And they said, one of the requirements of our county manager's position is to generate $3 million in grant revenue to the county every year, or he goes down the road. Pretty straight and simple. Wow. Pretty big ask, I would think, to generate.
You talked to
that.
Ty?
No. Commissioner's name. I also talked to their county manager, not their current county manager, the previous one, who's now one of their county commissioners. But,
Yeah.
so that, that could be a possibility. Who knows about that? We don't have anybody writing grants for the county as a whole. We have a lot of individual people writing grants for their own portion of the
Their
county.
departments.
Their take down there was you write $3 million worth of grants for the county. The other thing that we haven't really talked about much when this whole grant thing is Dr. Brown operates in this realm probably better than anyone else. Typically, there are grants also have a grant administration line, 5-10% of the grant specifically to administer that grant. I'll throw it out as an example. If there was a $500,000 grant and 10% of that was for grant administration, there's 50 grand could go to somebody's salary, county managers or whoever's doing that. The two grants that I'm involved in, neither one of those have a grant administration line item, but they also don't have any match either. So kind of a trade-off there. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's the answer, but certainly it could be a consideration that county manager would fund part of their own salary by grant revenue. Can't bank on it necessarily, but an expectation. So,
Checks in the bank.
yeah. The other thing is that if we do not create, if we do not fund a new FTE, that if we utilize, manipulate the current budget to allow for that, then I would assume at the very least, job titles, maybe personnel, job descriptions, salaries, some of those may change, right? And I think those are conversations that we need to have before we make an informed decision one way or the other. The problem is, the minute we say something in this office during a meeting, guess what? That's what they're gonna do. No,
We've already said it. It's
conversation.
already
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, it's a conversation. They don't. The constituents don't want us talking outside of a public meeting. And the minute you talk in a public meeting, then guess what? It's either misquoted or taken out of context or whatever. I hesitate to say, well, I think we ought to cut Brady's position in half and have somebody do part of it. And then we're into a big old cat fight. And I don't want to get into that. I don't know how we avoid that necessarily.
Can't avoid it. You gotta be straight up.
But yeah, I think the only way you do it is you be honest, you put out a reasonable conversation.
That's why I run.
And then you take the hits as they come politically, if they come, that's part of the job too, so. I'd hate to make a decision without having all of those scenarios and possibilities on the table. And I don't know how that happens, whether that happens in a workshop, and then we come back and formalize something in a meeting, I don't know that, I could see this being a 15-20 hour conversation before I'm ready to vote, and we can't do that in a BOCC meeting.
Understand that. And I'll get to you in just a sec. Well, I know we've been,
I just wanted to comment on that one thing, but keep going.
I will allow you to go ahead.
So you're right, Tom. I agree with you 100%. The depth and the breadth and the consequences of this decision really needs, the public kind of needs some comment, I believe, on it, just in my opinion, because we are going to structurally change how this county was put together. We need to watch that. I think counties need to mimic this. We don't need to follow them. This thing can be ran proper, but it's going to take the polishing of the system we have in place. And I know that incompetence in every fundamental thing that we've got going on here, to me, seems like we're the weak spot. I think we're surrounded with beautiful, talented people that love this county. Our weakness is lack of knowledge. Our weakness is not being able to have that leadership, that character that it takes to run the county. Throwing on, another layer of complication, this does not sound like the answer. Streamlining and getting down to how this was created, and it's going to take hard work, and it's going to take people getting out of their comfort zone somewhat. It's not an easy job. Ask Tom, he knows. We all know. I've watched this thing for 25 years up here. I wouldn't sit in that seat for nothing, but I'll sit in this seat. But we have a lot of challenges, and those challenges have been brought on. I think part of it's character. The character problem. We got to have self-control. There's things that make a leader a leader. Bill's got a resume. I mean, if we had 3 people like that with that resume, that's pretty awesome. We have a school teacher. I don't know all of Tom's background, but I know he's been in this community for a long time. And Kevin, you were part of the roads and bridges for 20 years or something? 25 years. And that's and that was one of my questions to you. So anyways, I'm getting off track here. Tom is right. We're going to need a really good discussion about, because the consequences of this decision is going to represent you 3 men and how it's going to affect this community in the future, as well as the immediate future. God only knows what that holds. But that's where I would go is let's get the community involved, and then also let's do the deep dive into how is this county set up and why is it set up? Why are elected officials running these departments? I would wonder if any of the 3 of you know how this thing was developed and why it was developed. 50 years ago in the very seats you're sitting in. 60 years ago. Was your mother a commissioner at one time?
She was.
Yeah. So, I mean, this thing has been preserved, and I moved here because of the liberty that it has.
And to that point, while she was serving, they did have a county manager.
Sure. And I could see that because it was more like, and I think it was probably labeled incorrectly, just like the gal in Hinsdale.
Yeah,
That's not, that we're just throwing a word out there, county manager. Oh, I think that's an insurance. That's an insurance thing. That's a description that the insurance gives.
He was here under a grant,
Sure.
and when the money went away, he went.
So I don't think it's just a money principle here. I believe it is a very way that this county was designed. I think we need to look at the depth of it, but a longer conversation, and let's flush this thing out before a decision is made, is I think is crucial. And anyways, I'm done. Thank you.
Did the speaker identify himself for the record?
I don't believe you did.
And I'm not going to. It's Jim McMahon.
Thank you, Clint. So, based upon our discussions here today, I think we would need to set up some sort of a workshop. And, so that we can hash out some of this stuff before we decide to move forward or not to move forward.
Yeah, I would agree.
So are you in agreement to that?
Oh, yeah, that's where I was a minute ago.
I thought
Ready
it
to
was.
vote.
That's what I'm hearing. So I'm restating
I'm about
what
to
I'm
vote
hearing
now.
to make sure I heard correctly. So make sure you get that on the record.
Heard or heard?
Heard.
Here. Spell it the same.
HURB.
So IR.
I would throw out December the 13th, a Tuesday, it's a possible date.
I think we're
Can't
gonna
do
have,
December 13th.
we're gonna have to wait
Pardon me?
until after this.
You can't do December 13th, we have CCI
And I
conference.
can't do it either. And I think we ought to wait till after the first of the year. There's just no time. I don't have any time this month.
If I may, sir.
Yes.
So I'd like to throw out thoughts here. I'm willing to wait till after the first of the year. If we could agree to earmark a salary number in the budget for this year. Because I can see the writing on the wall if we wait till after the first of the year and then sit down in a workshop and say, well, we never budgeted for this position, so we can't do it this year. And I won't go down that route. If we can earmark a number that we can all agree on as a possible salary in the event we end up hiring a county manager, then I'm good with that.
I hear you, but I disagree, and I'll tell you why. It's because the same reasons we can't make a decision on this. If we earmark it, we've made a decision. Understand the impacts of that even. So we're gonna have to change that next year anyway. So if we're gonna do it, we have the authority to move money around after the budget's set. If we get set, and also if we're agreeing on timelines, we're not gonna it's not gonna be 1 minute meeting after a workshop and make it happen. We're gonna have to phase into it or whatever the costs are. So I would not, we don't have time to sit and wrangle about what the earmark and then have the impact of that. More important to me in these budget meetings is getting the salaries set on what we're gonna pay the deputies and the people that we need to keep in. To me. So I would wait. Let's just define what the animal we're building here.
You have no time the week of the 19th?
No, I don't, I did not have any time, I'm telling you. I can show you the dots on my calendar.
I have them on mine too.
And we got a lot of important things that we've got to go through. We've got a lawsuit, we got a lot of things going on. Christmas, not to mention. It would be a hurried thing that would be no value.
And respectfully, that's your take on it, correct?
Right, just like everybody.
I don't agree that there wouldn't be any value in getting a workshop put on the calendar. I don't know how you
I
can say that
but
there wouldn't be any value in that.
My point is I can't do
No, it's you're.
it. Do it without me.
Short time.
Yeah.
You need more.
We need a time to do it, Tom.
Yeah.
I want to do it for real and devote some time to it.
I'm free the 19th through obviously the 21st,
The 19th,
27th.
December,
19th is Saturday, or not, it's November, I'm sorry.
no, it's Monday.
If I'm on the wrong. one.
I might free something up.
Yeah. I'm not free.
A raised hand online, just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
No, I cannot do it.
You cannot serve as a county commissioner between now and the end of the year.
That's correct. Not, I didn't say as a county commissioner, I got county commissioner stuff I'm doing. And I've got some personal doctor's appointments for my wife, and that's a factor.
Understand that, understand
So
that.
that's the way it is.
I just struggle with any of us, not just you, any of us saying, I don't have time
I
between.
didn't
now
say,
and
I
here
didn't
to
say
do
that. I didn't say that.
I thought you did say.
I
that.
said, if I weigh importance of what is necessary, this is not as important as the county commissioner things that I've got to do between now and the end of the year, period. That's me.
Understand, because I know you're opposed to this whole thing.
No, I'm not. I'm
but
not. It's not, it
I
has
thought you
anything to
said
do
you
with
were
it at all.
opposed to hiring a county manager.
Well, I am without defining it, Tom, and we need to take time to define it correctly. And I don't want to crowd something in between 3 other meetings and a doctor's appointment and not do it justice.
When are you available?
After the first of the year. In January, it's the right time to be doing.
You going to Denver?
Mr.
Yeah, so I think I'm bought with those ones to speak, but she's in my phone, doesn't have any.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gilbert? Can you hear?
Yeah,
There's one that's way gold. Rescue the Labrador.
You've got an awful lot of feedback, sir.
I do.
There, that was clear. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Just to add 2 cents to this discussion and to clarify management versus government. If you want to think about this, this is a quote from the higher education in Texas.gov, which says boards who are managing will focus on small details, departmental processes, and or individual outcomes. Boards who govern are concerned with organizational health, enterprise structure, strategic relevance and direction, and institutional results. I would hope you would consider yourselves a governing board and not a managing board.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir. Good point.
I agree.
Ann, did you want to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. I just wanted
Arthur,
to state
correct?
that pardon?
I was just identifying you with both first and last name.
Oh.
And
Ann Barthrop. I agree with setting the workshop, and I also think in the interest of the community, given the holidays, you're not going to get the attendance and input that would be valuable during December. So I would also suggest you go to January. Thank you.
thank you. And you had another comment, sir? I don't know, they did go away now.
Well, that was kind of what I was thinking, was we're getting crowded to minimize. But the other thing I thought was interesting, been taking a few notes, and I wrote down here and highlighted. Sound like we need a grant writer and a janitor. That's what it sounds to me like. In the overview of the other meeting and this meeting, a grant writer can generate $3 million, could pay for it. The person would actually generate its own income. Wouldn't be a manager. I mean, it wouldn't be the county's, and I really don't know what that means, county manager. I mean, that thing's loaded. That word is like a loaded, I mean, I have no idea what that means. It could be structured and made into whatever it wants to be made into. It's very malleable. But to me, it looks like what Tom said, this grant writer down there, if they don't perform, they got to go bye-bye. And your comment earlier was the money ran out, the county, that person had to go. This grant writing thing sounds to me like it solves all the problems. You guys still manage your people that you have to manage. I mean, you got to do something, right, to earn your money. No, right? I mean, I'm just saying, what are you going to just hire someone else to do your job? Because that's what it almost sounded like. And Tom was a little bit, he was like, oh, what are we gonna do? People are gonna go, we're just passing off our workload. Let's not do that. We got inflation at all time. We've got, the economy is not really, and you guys may have a buffer having a guaranteed paycheck. Some of us don't. So we look at it through those eyes sometimes. We're going, wait a minute, we're having to suffer here a little bit. Maybe someone ought to clean the toilet. They probably got a little more lateral movement in their life than most of the people do. So that's where I'm going with it. But listening to the overall thing, it sounds like a janitor or somebody can change a light bulb. Do we have that already?
Yes.
In a wheelchair, or what's going on there? Are they incompetent? Then what's the
I
problem?
see all the lights on in here.
Well, no, I was just saying that we have the toilet gets plugged. That's all I was saying. I was hearing that kind of low grade stuff that I thought we can't manage
And
that.
there's a lot of low grade stuff that comes before us each and every week.
And those people that are head of that department, surely they
that's-
can make a decision, right?
That's the way we are structured.
Yeah, surely.
And the sweet peppermint bark flavor. It's
Somebody
definitely
needs to mute.
things that I would enjoy.
So,
Well, we can discuss that.
Chairman, I would move that we direct the finance director to earmark $75,000 in the event we decide to hire a county manager for the 2023 budget. And I'll wait for comment until.
if we're gonna go into the first of the year, do that, I think that might be prudent. I would second.
Beyond is presented by Coastal Wind Joint Health Summit. With the service dog basics under his belt, it's time for Lincoln to learn the specific.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, I understand and heard what Bill said. I'm not trying to be obstinate here. I'm trying to move forward. This motion would allow me to be satisfied with waiting until after the first year. No problem with that. Without this motion, I would insist we at least have a workshop before the end of the year. But that's where I would be comfortable with saying, okay, let's pick a day in January.
And then if we do not move forward without that, earmark goes away.
And then I would throw out something else that's gonna ruffle some feathers. It's what I get paid to do, apparently. Certainly I'm willing to listen to public comment about this issue. This is not a public issue. If anybody knows more about running the county government in Custer County than us three, then I would entertain time to listen to that. I don't believe there is, or they'd be sitting here. This is a decision the three of us need to make with all the input that we need to get. I'm not discounting public comment. For me to listen to public comment, I will have my ear lean towards, does this person even know what they're talking about? Are they involved in the county government to understand where we're at financially and in the responsibility area? There might be somebody. So I said it last time, this is a county commissioner decision. This is not a public vote. But I'm sure you'll allow for public comment as we have on every issue we make a decision on.
Yes.
I'm gonna say the same thing I did before. I'm not gonna pass a bill to see what's in it. I'm not gonna pay for something that I don't even know what I'm gonna put in it.
Well,
So we can discuss putting together the animal and then paying for it at that time. That's how it works. That's how the Congress works. That's how other things do it. We don't need to set this aside at all until we have a real discussion on, we haven't even finalized the budget yet. We have no idea, and yet where the money's coming from. I know we've got a windfall, so to speak, rainy day funds, and we got an ARPA thing going. Let's define it. And then we got plenty of time to first of the year to do it. That's my input right now. So I'm,
And my point is not to spend the money, my point is to earmark.
I know it, but you're.
I'm not saying spend it. We're not committing that, we're not making a
What
decision
does he
to
do
hire.
with that?
He's gonna put a placeholder in there if this motion passes, I assume.
To do what?
And I just randomly picked 75,000, we could debate that number, but. To prevent us getting into January and saying, well, hell, we never budgeted for this position. And I don't want to be in that position, I think that's irresponsible. That's the only reason, I'm not trying to set you up for getting railroaded here.
I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying, you heard what I said.
Yeah.
Period, I'm done.
And 75 is probably a high number, especially if
Well-
it's not implemented till, you know, it wouldn't be implemented at the beginning of the year anyway.
Okay,
But
let's move on.
any other discussion to bring?
Just based on discussion. Maybe a way to look at this, I don't know as far as the number goes, but I might even suggest the high number that I gave as a placeholder. There's not been a decision made with LATCF funds. That's a one-time thing coming in, so I understand it's not sustainable. But to that same point, like, we've got a placeholder for it, but we haven't given a name to it. So this would be doing the same thing. And in fact, I would say that, what if we did 120,000 placeholder within the LATCF? And then once this is decided, if it's decided next year, at the beginning of the year, that this position, very specifically what they do, they've got that year to get to perform those duties. If we're talking about bringing in revenue in that amount of time, then, you know, we've got money that we weren't expecting to begin with. This is something that at least sounds like needs to be looked further into, has the possibility of bringing more money into the county. You know, that seems like a good enough bet to me, if we come up with a job description and deliverables that we can agree to. It would be this, I mean, we've already got LATCF budgeted, both revenue and expenses. This essentially would just be saying 120 of that, or 75 or whatever, is LATCF.
Okay, comment here, good point, but not having it sustainable still doesn't accomplish anything. It has to be
Except that you
sustainable.
can, the person, if they don't deliver in that
But
year.
see, you made a decision, you already made a discuss, we made a decision that that's what it would have to be.
Mhm.
We don't know that. If it's gonna be real, you want to sustain it. And if sustaining it means we're only gonna have a one shot at it, we're gonna fire them when they doesn't perform. That's an option that we haven't weighed against other things yet, because we haven't had the discussion.
Yeah.
That's, so I don't think that it gains anything, but I don't think we're any further along. We still need to do it after the first of the year regardless, because of good points.
And I think if it doesn't, if nothing can be decided, if there's no job description that can be agreed upon, then that 175,000 goes to the next priority in the LATCF.
Or we come out of general fund. I mean, these are just discussions we have to have.
That's right.
And again, I don't want to dime a sword at 75,000, put whatever number in there, but that's. I kind of hit the averages of and I was talking about the salary, not the total, because 75,000 doesn't get.
Yeah.
So, of a salary of 70,000. To earmark that 70,000 or 75,000 as a salary, that puts us somewhere in that ballpark. That was my intent. I didn't say it very well. But I'll restate if you want me to, Mr. Chairman.
Please do.
I would move that we earmark a salary of about 75,000, which puts us around 95,000 for total cost. To earmark that in the budget.
Okay, thank you. Public comment on this. You had your hand up? Okay,
No, it's gonna be a 2-to-1 deal here. The budget thing's gonna get situated. It's being earmarked for whatever this conversation was about.
There you go.
However that gets defined.
Okay, so those in favor of earmarking in the budget. $75,000 salary. For a county manager position, if that is decided upon. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
So follow up, Mr. Chairman, if I may, again, back to the whole workshop thing. Kelly, do you have your proposed meeting schedule with you? I do, and I've got it open, but I see I've already got it.
Here, I will turn it for you.
No. I just asked, that's all. So I had January the 10th as a Wednesday, and when I look at January the 10th, that is a Tuesday, so I messed up somewhere
No, you
there.
didn't.
Oh,
have
we
to do
intended
it.
that?
Yes, because we have to,
No, I have
And
January
what?
10th as a Wednesday on my calendar.
oh, it should be a Tuesday. Yes,
That's
That's
also
all.
marked on the copy of the Wednesday.
So I would move that we schedule a workshop on January the 9th, which is a Monday, which would allow us to have a opportunity to discuss all this prior to the commissioner meeting.
Are you good on the 9th, sir?
Just checking here. The we don't have do we have a
We have
midnight?
meetings the 3rd and the 4th of January.
No,
No. And we,
post calendars, January 10th, January 31st.
when is the first January meeting? The 10th?
Just as a suggestion for you gentlemen, I can even remind you, but why don't you look at your commissioner calendar and get that approved
We need to do that.
prior to, I'm throwing out an idea. Sorry.
See, we're coming back off of the
Did I
trip.
get a second?
Hmm?
Did I get a second to my motion?
Yeah.
no, you didn't.
So. Before, what?
You just
what
asked me,
your-
we're coming back off of a trip. Over the New Year's Day holiday. 10th is when we get back. So we're gonna have to move it. And this is just locally. Some Mark's coming in for a week.
So the reason that we do it on the 10th is because you get sworn in on the 10th.
Is the 10th a solid day? I'm
Second
happy.
Tuesday,
I'm glad you reminded me.
second Tuesday of January.
Okay. Works for me. Since I'm gonna be here, I have to be here.
So are you good on the 9th?
You could do that by policy.
No,
We don't have a motion yet, huh?
Not yet.
what is the
Are you good
motion
on
was
the-
the 10th?
the
I
motion
thought we
was
were
the
doing it
9th?
on the 10th. I can't do, was it the 9th?
Monday the 9th, is that what your motion was?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's gonna be picking up. It'll be too hard to do. First,
Tom, can I ask you a question?
why can't it be the 11th?
We're wanting to do it on the 9th so that you can get that on the 10th agenda. So your 10th agenda is gonna be crammed.
Yeah.
Because of all your board appointments and stuff. We just
We
throwing
need
that out.
time to do it right. We can't just jam it in there. What's
I
going
would
on?
prefer, I would ask Commissioner Canada to find a date that will work
11th.
on his calendar and the
Do it.
rest of us will make it work.
Do it-
It
do it
is
the
our
11th.
job, right?
Are you good on the 11th, sir?
All these things were set
Withdrawing
up
my motion.
before that. These are all set up before this all came up, so. I'm good with it on the 11th.
Are you good on the 11th, sir?
Oh, I'll be here, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So we are scheduling a BOCC workshop on county manager. January 11th. 9 a.m. And plan on being here a while.
That'll work. Not enough time on the other day.
Block out the whole day. All right. Let's go to our consideration for Custer County Recycles to the RREO grant.
Thank you, sir. I'll make this real quick. I would move that we authorize Custer County Recycles to apply for an RREO grant for heating and electrical in the recycle building. I'll add color to it during debate.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor then to allow the Custer County Recycles to go for an RREO grant for heating and the sorting items here. Discussion.
Yes, thank you, sir. As I alluded to earlier, the RREO grant, this is what concerns the commissioners the most, or it should, that this is a non-cash match grant. They do have in-kind matching opportunities, or not requirements, but they have a ton of in-kind for this grant. Originally, the electrical and the heating got scrubbed on the 2020 RREO grant because of the price of the baler skyrocketed, but by the time they ordered it, by the time they delivered it, the price increase was around $22,000. So they had to cut something out of that grant, and the heating and the additional electrical went by the wayside. So they'd like to write this RREO grant to get some financial assistance to put that stuff in place. Also, a couple of ceiling fans for the summertime, but it's climate control and some additional electrical stuff. Probably looking around 25, 30 grand, something like that.
So what'd you say the match was?
There's no match. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. And they're willing to write the grant and do it just like the.
Yeah, why wouldn't they? Right? Why wouldn't they want to?
Yeah, like I say, I support it, no problem, but we all agreed, we're not gonna go down these grant rabbit holes without the commissioners having a say so on whether or not they're gonna approve these grants. So that's why I'm here on behalf of the recycle board. I think there was a recycle board member online. If you have further questions, let me see. Must have dropped off. But I'll answer any questions if you have them, that I can.
Good.
I'm good. Any comment from the room? Anything online? Not seeing any hands. Okay, so those in favor of allowing the Custer County Recycles to pursue the RREO grant signify by saying aye.
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 Next item is a consideration of rate increases for county fees for 2023.
Hey, gentlemen, just, do I have permission? I'm sorry. In your packet, under item E, I gave you an outline of who has requested changes and what those changes are. This all came about because I was asked about scale fees. And if we need to make any changes, because it's $5 and $10. I did a cheat sheet for you, and then I also created a folder that shows the people who responded with their current fees. I hope that helps you with some of what you're looking at.
So what's the fee for scales between 45,000 pounds? What are they gonna pay?
You mean,
Well, you got $5 under 40 and 10 over 550.
And I may be wrong.
Well,
on the
there's a
weight.
gap.
So,
Oh,
the
sorry.
There's nobody, you get a free ride if it's 45,000 pounds.
Is it 40, Kelly? I'm
it's
sorry.
40.
So it'd be 40 and above is 10, not, you know,
Correct.
there's a
Yes, I made that
$10,000
correction.
freebie there.
I made that correction.
You just made the correction on the online one.
Yep.
All right.
Are we in general discussion or how do you want to approach it, Mr. Chair?
If you want to look at that and, if you see anything you have a question on, we can address it real quick before we have a motion.
And there's no fee for sex offender registration. Why is it on there?
No, there is. Sex offender.
$40.
Initial was $40.
Go to page 2.
Yep.
Oh. Missed that.
So the big things are you wanting to make any changes to the scale? The sheriff's department is asking for some minor changes with the mileage. In comparison, landfill was already done, planning and zoning, you've already approved. Road and bridge, the only request that they had was to change their driveway permit from $75 to $100. And tourism has nothing. So those are the people who responded to the request for the 2023 changes.
So basically, most of the sheriff's department fees are staying the same,
Mostly, yes.
other than their mileage for service and.
Okay,
Thought they were raising their urinalysis.
Oh, and the urinalysis was 15 is what Paula had said,
Was 15
or is 15.
and they
They
want
want 30.
30.
yeah, other than the scales, I think we're good here. I'll move we accept the fees as you present.
Second. Okay, further discussion.
Yeah, I'm assuming in that motion to be very specific because this is going to be a published document that the driveway, the new 2023 for the driveway will be $100,
Yes.
and the UA fee for the sheriff's office will be $30. I won't support a change in the scale fees. They're not, nobody's asked for that, but so it's really not part of this conversation. And then do we include Vince's recommendations to us on the internal stuff, or is that internal and doesn't need to be on its feet?
I actually had this conversation with Braden the other day, because he was asking about that, and I feel that since it's an internal thing, it does not really need to be on the fee schedule. It needs to be something that is made aware to the departments if we approve that.
Okay, I'm good with that as long as we get the notification thing done. Because I don't want departments freaking out because they had no idea that we agreed to that.
Yeah, and I think that part of that, I believe Vince is going to bring paperwork for us on Tuesday.
Okay.
That will be suitable to pass out to the departments. I don't know that he's sending it out in advance, but I can reach out to him and have him send it to the departments beforehand if that is so desired.
Yeah.
So that they're all aware that we're considering that.
Paul Manka also made mention that about the mileage thing. I can't tell from this whether they're at 62.5 cents a mile now, or that's what they want to go to. Not clear about that.
We were at 56.
56, I
think,
printed
is
off
what they
their
are.
current
I'm
rates.
looking at this as what they want. This is what there will be.
So we need to add the mileage increase in there with the sheriff's office, correct?
It's there, isn't it? 62.5.
Uh-huh. So mileage in your analysis of the two changes for the sheriff's department.
Mhm.
So at the present time are our scale rates, at 5 and 10?
Yeah,
Yeah.
can I speak to that?
Yes.
I know we're not proposing to change there, but I said I wouldn't support a change, and here's why. Those scales were bought and paid for and installed by local ag producers to be used as a community service.
Right.
We could charge $100 and it's not gonna be a revenue generator. I don't look at it as a revenue generator. I look at it as a community service. And I think we'd be doing a disservice if we start raising the prices for that scale use. I'm gonna say 98% of it's ag-based stuff anyway. That's why those ranchers got together and put up the money to put those scales in.
Right.
So I probably won't support a scale fee increase while I'm a commissioner. That being said, we're gonna have to spend some money on those scales. There's no
Gotta
question
maintain
about that. You know, so I don't know that there's been any major work done on those scales since they were installed, and they really do need a new deck on that scale platform. So that's my 2 cents on that, but I'm good with the rest of it. And
Okay, and there is no change on here for that. Yes, sir. Public comment.
Would that be something that a grant perhaps could be written for us to help with the scale?
Yeah.
That's a good example of what we're talking about,
Yeah.
because that is a priceless piece of county stuff that we use all the time.
question maybe for Kelly, because I don't know the answer to this. The only county fee schedule I've seen is from planning and zoning. Do we have a living document of all the fees and a fee schedule of the county? I think we need to create one then that reflects all of these that we can
I think it's just been kept by the
individual
individual
parties,
departments.
which doesn't do us any good if we're voting on fee schedule changes from a county level looking at that. So maybe we could follow up and get a schedule put together. I had no idea what the sheriff's office fee schedule looked like. I've never seen it before. So
Yeah.
I didn't know you had to pay to register as a sex offender. That's news to me.
Right.
I say that gratefully.
All right. I'm not seeing any hands online. Either any further discussion from the room? Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to approve the rate schedules for 2023 as presented. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I Okay.
That's our timeline.
Probably a quarter after, so we can get there in time. So we got about 10 minutes. We will not finish our agenda before recess, so. We'll get what we can. You gentlemen are good to go, keep going?
Yep.
Okay. Consideration of the HUT CDOT form.
I would move we approve that schedule that's presented on the.
And I'll
HUT
second
form.
that one too.
Motion on the,
I'll get it pulled up so I can give you a dollar amount, but, well, I didn't add them all up actually.
Why are we approving this anyway? It's
Well, we have to
form
by statute
to
to,
agree with it, right?
correct.
that should be HUTF, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's
Well,
HUT.
the form itself just said HUT.
Okay, so highway users tax, okay. And that is to certify the miles that we have.
Correct.
We maintain.
There's not a dollar.
No.
amount, just
I misspoke. I meant my-
So do you have the form? The real,
The form is there, it's in your.
I got it, but I
Oh,
mean, do you have the real one you're gonna sign? Are we gonna sign that today?
It is.
If we approve it, yes, sir.
So you got a, oh, okay, good.
Got a motion on the floor to approve and sign the HUT form for CDOT and with the stated miles, 127.777 miles of arterial, 232.870 miles of local streets, 360.647 of eligible streets, 20.75 miles of non-HUTF eligible streets, and 13.21 miles of non-HUTF eligible streets not maintained. Any further discussion on that?
And from me,
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Right.
Aye. Next item up will be our, let's go ahead and start starting around here. Consideration of the process for selection of the 2023 paper of record. And I believe you put that on.
I did, yes, sir. Trying to figure out what today is. I would
Figure out
move
where I
that
am.
we select the paper of record by requesting sealed bids.
I do have a question. I have visited with our attorney Clint Smith and also with the CTSI people, and have been informed that we do not actually have to name a paper of record by statute.
Correct.
It has been customary that we have done so for years. Is that a correct statement, sir?
Yes, it is. I think we were misled at some point in the past. Kelly showed me a document she got from CCSI that talked about the duties of the board, and one of the things listed there was this statute, CRS 24-70-103, that said the county commissioners had to designate a paper of record. Wouldn't you want, if you would, yeah. I had copies printed out. I thought we had a little more to talk maybe mine and see, we get one for each of them. Okay.
And then instead of 103, it's 108.
Right.
2471.
The statute, is that what's cited in the thing that CCI?
Yeah.
Okay, well, 103 defines a legal newspaper. We've got
Right.
two legal newspapers in this county. I'll have to go back and look at 108. I looked through that section. I didn't see anything in there that required.
No,
the
it
board-
doesn't.
Okay,
Just the language about
all right, thank you.
paper of record.
All right. You haven't really asked for my advice on doing so, but given the current status of what's going on between our two newspapers and the county board, or the Board of County Commissioners, whether you solicit bids for this or whether, my understanding is the department heads or the elected officials who are the ones that generate most of the legal notices that have to be published by statute. Would be Virginia, our treasurer, Kelly's office, county clerk and recorder, and our assessor's office, J.D. Henrich. Thank you very much. So it isn't necessary to solicit bids. It's not necessary to designate a newspaper. For everything else, because this is only for legal publications. That's the only reason you have solicited bids. There's lots of other business done between the county and the local papers as far as advertising. which has been confused. I mean, the language in the lawsuit that's currently pending against the Board of County Commissioners talks about advertising, and there's no agreement for advertising. The only thing that you do each year is select a newspaper to publish these legal publications. All the various departments, you know, when they want to hire somebody, they put an ad in whatever paper they want, but advertising is different than publishing a legal notification. So I'm just saying you have options here. It's not like you have to set up a policy or a procedure for soliciting bids if you wish to do so, which is the motion that's right before you now. You can certainly do that if you choose to not do that and just let each elected official work out their own deal as part of their budget for whatever advertising they want to do, or especially for the legal publications that they have to do. They could contact whichever paper they want and work out whatever arrangement they want. It doesn't have to be a decision from this board.
Okay, I also asked for advice too from you. And I did talk to CTSI just like you did. You said you did.
Yes, I reached out to
Yeah, I did too. And so I agree. You don't have to even you can do exactly what you said, or we just decide we'll just appoint one. Didn't matter what it was, when it was. It matters at the end of the year. We have to do it at the front if we're going to do it, and just appoint any paper that we so choose. So I don't have a problem personally letting it go to the departments, and I would probably prefer just designating a paper when we get together at time to do that, have a discussion and select one. Then don't need a bid.
I would have another question for you. If we so chose to not pursue a paper of record and let the individual departments do that, would it be prudent to still, rather than having each individual department go to the newspapers, if we went ahead and solicited a bid from the newspapers for those, so that those departments already have that information in front of them?
Well, that could be done, or each department could. I mean, the maximum, at least last time I looked, was 44 cents a line for staff for publishing this. And that's even before, when there was only one paper in existence, there was still the formality of submitting a bid, which was always the maximum 44 cents per line. When the second newspaper came into being, then there was some competition there for a while, and there still is. But you could certainly solicit bids and submit those to the various department heads or elected officials who are required to publish notifications, and let them decide which one they want to go with.
So Kevin, I hear you. But I'll go back to what you pointed out.
I'm gonna call point of order. I didn't want to do that, but I'm going to anyway. There's a motion before the chair.
Was
If
it
it doesn't get seconded, that's fine, but it's your responsibility to deal with my motion.
Yeah, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Okay, so back to discussion as to how to move forward here.
So I would
You had a point.
just the point I was gonna make is, why do we want to get into the minutia? Either we can sit down in a discussion on a board meeting after the words and just select a paper, or let it be up to the department heads who are going to deal with it. There's only what, 3 of them did we decide?
Well, I think occasionally planning and zoning is required.
Yeah, they would do it.
Publish a notice.
So there would be 4. So I think we don't need to get into that. I trust the elected officials to do the job.
So we're into a discussion here.
Just
We're in general discussion because there's no motion. Do you have some?
Well, I do. That's why I made the motion. I don't agree with having every elected official in every department have to contract and negotiate a rate for legal fees. I think that is our job. I understand, believe me, that it's not required by statute. I get that. I'm not arguing that. What is our responsibility? as the elected leaders of this county. I think it's to do this so that every department, every elected official doesn't have to do that. I think it's the fair way to do that. I think the sealed bid, I support that 100%. I don't know how else you can get rid of all the conflict, all the special interest, all the political leveraging and all that crap. I really support doing a blind sealed bid. Doesn't matter to me, but I think it's our job to select this paper of record so these departments don't have to do it. It's not just elected officials. Every department in this county could be in a position to have a legal notice. And then they're gonna have to go in and haggle over a price. And I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's right.
Okay,
That was my point as to going ahead and soliciting bids, even if we did not.
and so I'm,
choose the paper.
we're back to the other point is, and I just had this discussion and select a paper when we do it. It doesn't have to be a sealed bid. It just means, that means we will look at the performance before, we look at now, look at what's the best value for what's being offered and the select a paper work wise and just select them. That's the easiest way to do it.
Well, I would move that we would solicit bids from the two newspapers for informational purposes, but do not move forward in naming a paper of record.
I guess I'd have to ask for
Yeah, I
clarification
need a
before I
little-
decide.
I
whether or
would
not
make
I
a
say-
motion that we do not pursue naming a paper of record, but that we do ask for bids so that our individual departments will have that information before them, so they do not have to go after that information when they need to publish. That is my motion.
With the idea that those prices would be effective for the year 2023. That's the deal.
That is correct.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Yeah, a motion on the floor to not move forward with naming a paper of record, but pursuing bids for 2023 publication of legal notices. Discussion.
So, yeah, just real quick, in the past, the paper of record contract quote, which is not really a contract, it's a handshake, I guess. Bids were asked for and we had no paper, the paper record ended in with December 30th. And then we made a decision on the, that was the mid-month meeting,
What we've done in the past.
right? So are we selecting a paper of record now process? Or are we gonna have the meeting in,
For my motion, we would not pursue a
Right.
paper of record for 2023.
But your question is
Yeah, I
valid
get
because that's why I asked to put it on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I think don't take this really literal, but Jennifer and I have had a discussion about trying to get these decisions made in December so they become effective in January 1 of the new calendar year, not only the newspaper, but other business, instead of waiting until January 15th to make all those things. Well, what if somebody needed a legal notice between January 1 and January 15th? We're not under contract with anybody.
so all we did before
So-
was just to process.
We're just trying to clean that up. That's why I asked to put it on the agenda.
Okay, I'm sure,
To
should
move
clean
it
that up.
up the schedule a little bit. So I
I'm good.
think I know where you're coming from, Commissioner Day. I just struggle with the intent of not making a decision.
Yeah.
We're back to having everybody, they don't have to, if your motion passes, they wouldn't have to negotiate those prices, correct? That's what you're
Correct.
thinking.
The price-
could
the
pick
price
a paper.
would already be there.
They got the prices and they could pick either one.
And then they're left to do whatever they want. So let's assume for a minute, to make my point a little clearer, that newspaper A submits a bid for 30 cents. And newspaper B submits one for 41, any department, any county entity could select whichever one of those two they wanted for whatever reason, correct?
Correct.
And I would, as a taxpayer, say for business.
Yeah.
That's why I'm pushing to get sealed bids and selected paper on behalf of the county. I'm not gonna support your motion. I'm just trying to make you understand where I'm coming
Fair enough.
from. Okay,
Valid point.
thanks.
Any more here at the table?
I don't know, that is confusing. It's a little harder to handle. I don't see it. We're, problem trying it if that's what you want to try to do for a year, because we can always change it. But I still would support actually just picking on the newspaper record moving forward. We don't have to have reasons or anything. Right
And
now.
you and I are on the same page about picking a newspaper of record. I would guess we would struggle on how we do that.
Right, and according to Clinton, CTSI, we don't have to have bid, we just.
No, we don't have to. It's how we choose to make that
Right.
selection.
And
Understood.
I prefer the see product, best value. And I would base it on that, and from what I've seen in the past, and or that past year, whatever year it is, we're dealing.
So that would, best value would be sealed bid, correct?
The best value is not low bid, it's best value is the bids combined with performance, that kind of thing.
By performance, you mean circulation?
No, it's product, is the print good, is it the way can people read it, is it the circulation hadn't got anything to do with it, statute wise, it can be 3 people, circulation is 70.
I'm just saying.
But
would
that could,
circulation be a
it could,
metric?
sure,
That's all I'm
anybody,
saying.
whatever you want to base your
Yeah,
point on, I agree.
if we keep hammering on the statutes, it's a moot point. There are no statutes, right? We can all three agree on that. So we can forget saying, well, statute doesn't tell us to do that. Statute doesn't tell us anything. I'm asking about.
Yeah, what we
metrics
would
would
be,
you use to evaluate best value?
and that would be your individual basis too, and everybody has.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we need to come to consensus as a commission to decide how we're gonna, if that's the route we go, what metrics are we gonna use to determine best value? That's all I'm saying. So,
The reason I'm waiting, gentlemen, is to remind you of the lunch at 11:30. I don't know if you want to table the discussion or keep going.
Would you guys like to discuss this further or?
well, I think we need to bring this item of business conclusion, then we can go. That's my opinion. You asked for
I'm good for that.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
So commenting on this, on decision making, you guys are the leaders of the county. So you look at a big picture. Has there ever been a newspaper that went broke or it just couldn't produce? I mean, not here in the county, but ever. So all I'm saying is you need to look at the health of the contractor and how they are. It's not just, lower or higher. It's the overall picture of the contractor. If you have somebody gonna put a roof on your house, you have that lateral movement, you're going, you could, the big picture of why you hire somebody. And Tom said it really well. I mean, the people want you to make good business decisions.
Right.
And it's not just based on health. It's based on the big picture of your decision making and why. There could be some underlying conditions that may be going on that you say, we'd like to, but maybe not. And I think you have that lateral movement, which, the people in charge. So anyways, that's my two.
So you're required to publish within the county. You don't have to name a paper. It's just why you send out a trash bid. Technically, every department here could, contract out their own dumpster company or their own propane service. You do it, you do the bid process and you select. There's not a county in the state that doesn't do some type of legal contract because you're trying to get the best price. As Clint said earlier, there's competition, so you do a sealed bid on that type of thing. So I'm not in disagreement with any of that. having each department do it, they could send out their own bids as well. You could do that, but you're trying to get the best price for the taxpayer. When you do a single contract for Lowell County, you don't have to name it a paper record, but people do call in and say, who's the one that the county has a legal contract with for legal publications? So you can drop the name paper of record, but we're talking about just a legal, a publication contract across the board. So that's and the purpose of that is to get the best price or value if we're gonna go down that rabbit hole. But the best price for the most amount of people or whatever criteria you gentlemen set. But I'm not in disagreement. It would just be extremely awkward to have every single department from just a logistics standpoint and a price standpoint have to reach out. So
Anything else?
They didn't say my name last time.
You didn't. Jordan didn't either.
Jordan wanted to keep me on that.
So. All right. Anyone else? Not seeing anything online.
Just quickly then, are you going to develop some rubric to get these prices, PICA? How many times published, all that stuff that would normally go into bid, or how we gonna go about that?
I think it would fall under the same format as what we have asked for in the past. So that we had that information for each department so that they would have that information.
And if your motion passes, there'll be no action taken on the results of our request to get those prices, correct? For information only.
Correct.
There's a deadline you want that time. Is there a deadline that you would want that by the information to come in for the different departments?
Yes, that would be the same time frame that we would be asking for the other bids to come in.
So before the end of the year,
Right.
still they would know January.
Yes. All right, one more time.
It's Jim McMahon, and I like what Tom said is that if some of this stuff could get done in November or December, you don't have that lapse. I mean, that's just a common sense thing that should be taking place, and that's kind of some of the reason I'm saying here.
I'm good.
Okay, not seeing anything online. So those in favor of not pursuing a paper of record, but pursuing bids from the two newspapers for legal publications for the year of 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Right. Thank you all.
We gotta go.
I will recess this meeting until 1 p.m. So that we may attend Mike Halpin's dinner from the sheriff's office. We will reconvene at 9 o'clock.
Judge-elect or select, or however you would put it.
1 o'clock sharp.
I'm hoping